if we can't get to young people and inspire them fifth, sixth grade or younger, we've already really missed our chance. If they're going into manufacturing at the high school level, they made that decision a long time ago. And so what we really have to do is show people, young people, and those that influence them, parents, counselors, peers, friends, that manufacturing really is cool. At the end of the day, it's cool, and there's a home for everybody.
Hello and welcome to Make It, Move It, Sell It. On this podcast, I talk with company leaders about how they're modernizing the business of making, moving, and selling products, and of course, having fun along the way. I'm your host, Adam Honig, the CEO of Sphero.ai. We make amazing AI software for companies in the supply chain, but we're not talking about that today. Instead, today, we're talking with Ray Dick, the founder of Project MFG, which is all about helping create a bigger labor pool for manufacturers in the U.S. Welcome to the podcast, Ray.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you having me on the air.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hey, Ray, I want to start by talking about something I know is of interest to you. It's something called Ikigai. Can you, before we jump into manufacturing and everything like that, can you just tell the folks at home here what that's all about?
Oh, absolutely. And I will argue that it is part of manufacturing. It's not something we're going to leave and jump into. Ikigai is a Japanese expression for finding that passion that you have and creating a life around passion such that it's more about being than working. And so seeking Ikigai is seeking that passion that you can make a vocation at and have a successful, wonderful life around. And so for me, I've been seeking my Ikigai for about 10 years now, and I founded a nonprofit, self-funded and founded a nonprofit that eventually grew into project manufacturing, which we'll talk about a little bit today. But it is that passion that drives me every day and makes life fun.
And is Ikigai the kind of thing that you're always like attaining towards, you never achieve it, or is something that you can actually be like, no, I've achieved it, we're good here?
That's a great question. I don't know if you can ever achieve it and say I'm good, because it's always out there, but I can definitely say that when you get there, it's a great place to live. I don't know if there's another side to it, but the last 3 years have been an awful lot of fun, and I attribute it to finding my Ikigai.
No, that's great to hear. Well, it's interesting because it sounds a little bit like what you're trying to do with Project MFG is actually help other people get their Ikigai as well. Am I kind of hearing that correctly?
You are driving the taproot of our tree. Our view on the trade workforce pipeline is there's a home for everybody, and you just have to realize what you like to do, what you can be good at, and where it fits in manufacturing. And so if you can find that Ikigai in manufacturing, you can have the life you want and still be in the manufacturing, still making things and having a wonderful life around it. And so that has been the driving force on pretty much how we have really set the mission for Project MFG.
Gotcha. Well, I want to jump into that mission, but let's pull back for a minute. Let's just take a slightly bigger picture look at what's going on with manufacturing. So we have a lot of people on the podcast who, talk about the challenges that they're facing, and finding talent, I would say, is a top 3 challenge for almost everybody who comes on the podcast.
The workforce, the trade workforce specifically, is almost at a national crisis level. And I hear a lot about how, we're automating and we're getting rid of or reducing the reliance on manual labor, and the trades are going to be diminished. I would argue we're just seeing the opposite of that with what's going on globally. Our particular effort, our biggest customer is the Department of Defense. And what they have recognized that if you can't produce domestically, you have a national security breach. If you can't control where it's made, how it's made, and what's in it, do you really control the security of your products? And so that's driving a lot of activity at the federal level to reinvest in domestic manufacturing, which is just taking a bad situation and making it much worse. The submarine industrial base has a massive gap in trade skill workforce, and it's just exacerbating it for everybody else.
Wow. I mean, we had the national economist for the National Association of Manufacturers on the program recently, and he was saying that there are 700,000 open jobs, unfilled jobs in manufacturing today. So this is exactly what you're talking about here, right?
It is exactly what we're talking about, and it's actually going to grow. If you look at the history of the last 30 to 40 years, our generation, my generation, we were really guided to college. And so we took away the interest in going into the trades. During the early 80s, we traded from a high quality production model to a low-cost production model. And we saw this plethora of offshoring happen. So we lacked investment in the people going into the trades. We offshored, which diminished capabilities. And now at this point in time, we have the retirement happening of the current generation that was exacerbated by COVID. So you have this perfect storm of an increasing demand for onshoring based on defense and economic value creation, coupled with a greatly reduced workforce because they're retiring, and a young set of students that don't even know what manufacturing is in many cases anymore.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And what about the people who say, well, what about automation? What about AI? What about robotics? Can't we just use all of that to make up the gap here?
So you can definitely, automation, AI, and technology advancements can definitely change the conversation, but there's always going to be a human in the loop somewhere. It might change job classifications. It might change what a day looks like in the life of a machinist, for example, but we're never going to eliminate the human in the loop, at least for the foreseeable future. The other thing that's kind of going on that's causing a struggle with advanced manufacturing technologies, and again, we spend a lot of time in the national security or the defense industrial base space, is how do you qualify these new technologies such that the performance is validated against the mission requirements. And so we have a slowdown of adoption in defense space, specifically defense industrial base, coupled with a need to grow faster. And so I appreciate, I'm an old automation guy at heart, and I appreciate the impact it can have. I think we're still a generation or more away of it taking any significant difference.
Gotcha.
My personal opinion.
Well, that's what we have you here for, Ray. So speaking about your personal opinion, maybe just share a little bit about how you got into this space. What caused you to want to start a nonprofit in this area?
So it actually, I've been in manufacturing pretty much my entire life, in different capacities. I've had multiple startups where we tried to make things and commercialize them. Recognize, all the pains that your audience feels around supply chain issues, cash flow issues, sales channels. I appreciate all that. I've also been really big in the education space. I've taught graduate school engineering. And what happened was I had an opportunity to engage in the trade education network, CTEs, community colleges, CTEs, continuing trade education programs, community colleges. And it was just, and again, we started out as in our predominantly a Department of Defense funded program. A customer of mine said, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a Top Chef competition for manufacturing? And that was 5 years ago now. That really stimulated, and they funded it. We started the competition. But what it's done over the last 5 years is we've really dug deep into what is driving the trade workforce training pipeline and the ecosystem that it may or may not be best matching the manufacturer's requirements today. And it truly is being able to work with young people coming up in the trades, seeing a middle school young homeschooled kid get to run a plasma cutter and then weld up a doghouse in the afternoon. It's just the passion and the excitement we can bring to manufacturing is just amazing.
So I feel like everybody agrees that there is a big need for more people to be coming into manufacturing. And there's also a skill gap, which we'll get to in a minute. But I'm also seeing like a excitement gap as well. That, manufacturing, when you talk to young people, they want to be in video games or they want to be filmmakers or something like that. But nobody comes up to and says, hey, I want to build a centrifugal, supercharger or something like that to me. So, I really love your program because I feel like one of the things that it does is it generates that kind of excitement for people about the space. So maybe tell folks about how that works.
Yeah, so we really decompose the workforce pipeline to the younger kids. And what we've learned over the several years, and we have an innovation program as well that gets more in the cloud from this, I call the STEM orientation. If we can't get to young people and inspire them 5th, 6th grade or younger, we've already really missed our chance. If they're going into manufacturing at the high school level, they made that decision a long time ago. And so what we really have to do is show people, young people, and those that influence them, parents, counselors, peers, friends, that manufacturing really is cool. At the end of the day, it's cool, and there's a home for everybody. It's non-discriminatory. If you like to make, there's a place for you to make something in manufacturing. And so for us, what we do is in our program, we came out with the Clash of Trade as a reality YouTube show for a manufacturing competition. Our top chef of manufacturing, we now produce Clash of Trade on an annual basis, a few series episodes that really create heroes. We give away $100,000 to our national winning team and try to put some prestige behind it and create a narrative where they can stand proudly and say, I made that. You can't and I can. Great anecdotal. We had a competition a year ago in Wichita, Kansas. A team from Sarasota, Florida had a high school senior on the team. Fantastic gamer, to your point. He loved the computers, he's a gamer. He may have been one of the best CAD/CAM programmers we've ever seen because he was able to connect the gaming three-dimensional world to the manufacturing three-dimensional world. And by the end of the week of competition, he had been offered a job at an aerospace company in Wichita for $42 an hour. And so, if we can tell the story of what the art of the possible is, which they don't even see that, if we can tell them what the art of the possible is, find a little passion in Ikigai to get them motivated, that's where the success comes in the long game.
Gotcha. So the Clash of Trades, it's essentially a television program, right?
Welcome to Clash of Trades. I'm your host, Todd English. Schools from across the nation have been competing in the 2023 season of Project MFG's Advanced Manufacturing Competition to be one of the Final Four at the National Championship. The teams are going head-to-head for the National Championship title and a chance to win $100,000. This season is all about medical manufacturing.
Are they making whatever they want, or do you give them guidance, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we really treat it a lot like your first day on the job. And so we have teams compete through the course of the academic year, the school year. We're going to have our next final will be in Charlotte, North Carolina over Memorial Weekend at the Coca-Cola 600. Competition is going to be in the Stuart Haas Racing Manufacturing Facility. So, the secret is, NASCAR teams have manufacturing. And so we're going to have our competition in their manufacturing facility. And what they're going to do, they're going to show up, and it's kind of like their first day of work. They're going to be given some raw stock. They're going to be given a technical data package. They're going to have access to some welding equipment. They're going to have access to 5-axis machining. And over the span of 16 hours, they have to make something, whatever that TDP drives them to make. But, oh, wait, it's not like a traditional, I'm going to train to the test, and because I trained to the test, I'm going to do good. Real life is messy. Pick a manufacturer and engineering change orders come through. Mistakes are found in TDPs. We introduce that kind of variability into our competition to let young people experience what a day in the life really is like if they're on the job as part of a team actually having to produce something with the constraints of time and money. And it is just amazing to watch them compete. They get into it. Football players have nothing on competing manufacturers.
Gotcha. And how many teams do you typically have competing for the prize?
So this year we started in our integrated competition. We started with 81 teams, and we're down to the final 4. In our National Welding League, I think we started with 281 welders, and there's going to be 15 of those at Nationals. So we start wide and narrow down to the best, and run what you brung and hope you brung enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so do companies sponsor the competition, or how do you match up, manufacturers with the talent that you're creating?
Yeah, so honestly, Adam, you just hit on one of our Achilles' heel is we've never been able to say we put a butt in a seat. And that has always bothered us, because if we're really able to say we're getting after the workforce gap, you got to say this person went to this job. And so what we started doing the last year is having discovery events and career fairs as part of our actual competition event cycle. And so now we're able to use placement as part of our program. And so we bring in, local and regional manufacturers that are tied to the community wherever we land. And so in this case, it'll be Charlotte regional manufacturers. And then we'll connect them with our competitors and then younger students to do workforce discovery and career placement.
Gotcha. I was just envisioning, somebody would have the Northrop Grumman, patch on their shirt while they were welding or something like that,
if any of your manufacturers out there want to sponsor a team, call us. We are all for it. We are working in that direction, but we haven't tipped that can over yet. We do have great, and I do got to give a shout out to our manufacturing partners. Lincoln Electric has been a fantastic partner of ours and has sponsored us way beyond anything I ever imagined. Haas Automation, CNC Machines has been a fantastic partner. Zeiss has been a fantastic partner. Miller Electric. We have a collection of really core partners. But our next iteration, foreshadowing next year, we are looking at corporate sponsored manufacturing teams for the competition.
So the Clash of Trades show is on YouTube today. Any plans to take that to Netflix or anything else like that? Is that in the works?
So in the works, that always comes out of the mouth and flows so nice and easy. What we've learned is the jump from a YouTube reality show that's self-produced to a picked up episode on Netflix or something is a little bit longer tail. But our production crew out in LA, ATS, they've been working to get us in front of some folks. And every year we've done, I think, 7 episodes now. Every year we work it. We did win a VIDI, which is a video award last year. We won a Webby last year. And so we continue to elevate our production quality. But that's like Tesla coming out with a new car. It's tough to start an automotive manufacturing company. It's hard to break into reality TV.
Yeah, so we just need to get Elon Musk on the team. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. A CubeSat project tied to SpaceX, we'd be in.
Gotcha. It's really interesting because one of the things I've been talking with a lot of guests on the podcast is this idea of stimulating interest in manufacturing with younger people. We've been talking about like Marvel kind of movies, like what could we do to that? But what I'm hearing is more like Pitch Perfect, but for manufacturing teams. We just need like a movie version of this to really get the word out.
It's really interesting, Adam. You bring up, how you promote and you attract and you get young people into the trades. And we've had a lot of conversations going everywhere from, fancy ads during the Final Four or during the Super Bowl. We got some folks that are doing that draw a certain crowd. We've talked about, do you just get them excited around the arts? Welder, for example, do you go after the artistic welders or the artists and try to get them into manufacturing? What we've kind of learned along the way is, manufacturing and art sound very similar. But if you take welding as an example and you have a production welder, the last thing you want that production welder is doing is taking artistic license with your technical data package. Right. Especially if you're in a critical field, aerospace, or anything like that. That's, there's a dichotomy of the trade workforce need that has to be thought through, even going back to how we recruit them.
No, I understand. So on the submarine, you don't want them freelancing about how the two pieces are coming together, for example. That sounds like a bad combination right there.
It sounds like it could be a bad situation deep under the sea.
Yes. Now, I do feel like I am seeing locally, so I'm in Massachusetts, and we have, I went to my son's high school event last night. There's a lot of advanced manufacturing kind of stuff going on there. I was very pleased to see it, classes and different programs. So I'm feeling like there is movement in this direction. Based upon what you're seeing, though, how do you feel like we're progressing on this topic?
Progress on the topic of trade workforce education, specifically at the middle of high school, community college level, is massively on the upswing. I can give you many, many examples. We're actually going to be in Groton, Connecticut next Monday for a welding competition. The week after that, we're going to be in Providence, Rhode Island. We just came back from a competition in Hawaii. We're having an additive competition down in Austin. The conversation, and I was just speaking with some folks in Washington, D.C. yesterday. The conversation is starting to come around recognition of the need, that it's a good wage job. And I got to be honest, the college loan situation, student loan situation is helping the trade education conversation because you got all these young people coming out with huge student loans that are having trouble finding jobs versus a trade education where if you have loans, it's not very much and you still have a really well-paying job. From what I see, there's awareness, there's a growing interest in it, and it is really almost hit the tipping point of being a really good conversation. 5 years ago when we started, it was tough.
Yeah. So are there things that you feel like, people listening to this podcast or manufacturers should be doing to kind of foster this groundswell, if you will?
Yeah. So from a local level, manufacturers, I would love to see more manufacturers reaching out to local educational systems. A career day with your local school, even at the very young level where it's more about association and awareness. But if you have any trade training in your community, getting manufacturers in front of them. If you think again about what we've done with young people and the guide towards college, a lot of young people no longer even know what manufacturing is. We did a marketing study when we first launched Project Manufacturing. We were going to call it Freedom's Forge after Arthur Herman's book, because he was an advisor for us early on. And we were cautioned that you couldn't call a manufacturing program anything to do with the word forge because the connotations were all dark, dirty, and dangerous. So we said, well, yeah, as an old dude, I agree. But we paid for a marketing survey of young people who would be coming into the trades. They had no clue that forge had anything to do with manufacturing, which was kind of eye-opening about what we really need to be trying to educate them on. It does go back to the art of the possible. It's not what older people think manufacturing is. It's what it is today and how we can make young people appreciate where it's going.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like people, it's pretty much a blank slate for a lot of people, right? Or maybe like that one I Love Lucy episode where she's stuffing chocolate in her face down an assembly line or something like that. That's like the prevailing image.
All right, girls. Now, this is your last chance. If one piece of candy gets past you and into the packing room unwrapped, you're fired.
Yes, ma'am.
Let her roll!
That is, yeah.
So your focus is really on earlier development, getting people into the pipeline sooner. Have you thought at all about retooling or older people in the workforce, kind of coming into the manufacturing space?
Yeah, I would like to kind of course correct a little bit there.
Okay.
A lot of our program is about the younger people coming into the workforce, but where we have immediate impact is transitioning adults and high school CTE students that are coming through the programs now. And one of the biggest things we've been able to accomplish with our program, and it really gets after getting good employees that are productive and contributing. Two things we like to see: producing on the floor at a high level of efficiency or performance, and then being able to retain them in the position more than 6, 12, 18 months. The cost of replacement is exceptionally high, and poor performance is a cancer that can hurt an organization. So a few things we've been doing to really get after some of those issues are, our competition stress test training programs to emergent requirements. And then we share best practices, what works best for trade training. We've had almost every community where we've put a significant footprint. We've had the local community, either at the local or regional level, invest in recapitalization of their local schools. Because the recognition that if you have a good trade pipeline, manufacturers, I am more likely to relocate to where I can get employees. If I can't get employees, I'm not putting my manufacturing facility in your community. And so the long game, we've seen communities reinvest, and then manufacturers have come to the communities to create local economic value. And then finally, we were tasked to do a survey of trade certifications, educational certs, about a year and a half ago. And what we found, there's a lot of great certifications out there, and I'm not going to name any, and I don't want to dismiss any because they're good. They do really, really good at what they do. But what we've seen in our competition is, and we've seen it many times, we'll have a manufacturing expert judge, bring somebody in from a local manufacturing company. We had somebody from, I think Boeing was at one of our competitions as a judge. And there'll be a student that's not necessarily the technically best student, that may not have all the certifications you would want for the employee. But to the point, I've had people say, I would hire him tomorrow. He has the soft skills and the behaviors that's going to make me a good long-term employee versus him having the trade certifications. He's a great welder, but man, he's going to be a horrible employee. Hope he shows up every day.
Yeah.
And so we've actually worked to change the conversation from trade certifications to trade employability quotient. And so if you have a good trade employability quotient, which doesn't dismiss the certifications, it just supplements certifications with behaviors, knowledge, skills, and other things that go with it. And that is where we start getting after high-performing employees and retention. And then that starts changing the workforce gap, because now we're not replacing as many as we are when we don't hire smart people that are under positioned.
I see. So the retention has to do with the fit into the workforce, not necessarily the technical skills, because it's more like working as part of a team and understanding how systems come together and interpersonal skills, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And there is actually a fair amount of published data that strongly suggests that technical skill is clearly not the best and is a poor indicator of actual on-job performance and retention. You can train technical skills, you can get there, but if it's somebody that doesn't want to learn or can't engage in the interpersonal requirements of your particular company's needs, or their behaviors are just inconsistent with your core company mission, you're not ever going to get there, and chances are they're going to wash out before you're ready anyway.
Right. And given, even though somebody might have the technical skills, there's still an investment in hiring new employees before they become fully productive. And you can't really afford to have that happen in most circumstances.
Right. The perfect hire is the one that has the technical credentials and the behaviors and personalities you want in your company. That's the perfect hire. And that's where I hope through, increasing educational capabilities and capacity so we train them better, we can also then take and assess them and make sure that they're a good fit, not just in general, but for your particular company and your open position.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me. Well, Ray, how can people find out more about your program and the Clash of Trades and everything that you guys are up to?
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to our website. It's just www.projectmfg.com. It has links to our Clash of Trades show. It has links if you want to get involved, to all our manufacturing friends out there listening to this. It has links if you want to do a sponsorship. We're open to all kinds of things. But yeah, go to our website, www.projectmanufacturing.com. It's pretty much all laid out there.
Right on. Well, I really appreciate your joining us on the podcast. I think this is a very important work that you guys are doing. I mean, we just hear it over and over again about this gap. And, for everybody I've talked to, you guys have one of the most innovative approaches to it. So really, really appreciate your sharing all of that.
Well, thank you so much for the time today, Adam. Anytime I get a chance to talk about it, I get wound up and get a little excitable. But like I said, it's my Ikigai. It's where I found my passion, and seeing the young people get so excited about what they're doing and competing, it is inspirational, and it gives you hope for the future.
Right on. Well, I hope we get everybody's Ikigai going with this today. So just as a reminder for listeners, you can find every episode of the Make It, Move It, Sell It podcast at spiro.ai/podcast. And if your Ikigai was improved by this show, or you made progress on that, I think, Ray, they should probably give us a review or something like that, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because if we can impact people's Ikigai, it's been a major win for everybody.
Absolutely. So go ahead and give us that review and subscribe, to the podcast while you're at it. And in the meanwhile, thanks for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.